Oh yeah, ay. When you need a hand and you don't know why, just know that I'll be there. When the road is long and you feel so tired, just know that I'll be there.
All right, there we go. Hello, YouTube. Hey, John Regan with E-Powersport here today, and want to go over a few things for our 12th Sunday morning coffee chat rant. This will be part chat, part rant. So, as you can see here, I have a couple of motors, and part of the chat piece that I'd like to go over today with you is hub motors, different kinds, some of the differences between ones like this that go on an e-bike and ones like this that go on one of our e-enduros, which essentially is more like a motorcycle level hub motor. It's pretty hefty stuff. Working on them is very different. Some things are the same, but generally there's definitely some consideration for the weight and size and use of this one, as well as this one. I mean, there's definitely certain things you have to consider. So the rant part, which maybe I'll start with that, is really about e-bike rebates, and how there's lots of different ways, and I mentioned this before in different things, pardon me, but there's lots of different ways in which you can encourage people to adopt and use e-bikes. You have to excuse me, it's toasty in here today. We're getting about 100 or so, 99 or 100. So yeah, the sun comes in, it just warms us up. I have to get some insulation up here. So when it comes to rebates, what we find is, of course, I mean, e-bike companies, hey, give people rebates and they'll buy our bikes. Well, yes, I mean, that is true. If you give people government money, which, by the way, when we're talking about government money, that's your money, all right? As a citizen of the United States, you pay taxes. We have a system that prints our money against our value as a country. And so when you think about that, what you're doing is you're getting money from yourself, right? One way or another in this rebate or credit or something from the government that's giving you money back to yourself so that you can buy an e-bike, all right? So what it really comes down to when you follow the trail of where that rebate money goes, the actual group that it benefits the most are the e-bike companies, all right? The electric motorcycle companies, the electric car companies. They don't benefit the consumer because what they actually do is place a false deduction, or say a false lower value against what it is they're purchasing. So whether that's an e-bike, an e-motorcycle, or an e-car, electric car, by giving somebody a rebate, you've already instilled in their mind that the value of that item is much less. Even though you're telling them through the rebate that it should cost this much, but you're helping them to pay this much, in their minds, the way the psychology works is that price delta goes like this. So one, you're not helping the manufacturers, right? So our model is to try and get you great prices, low prices on similar or even the same units. And we do that so that you don't need a rebate. We have payment systems that you can use. We have Affirm, we have Progressive, we have our layaway program, all to try and get you what you need without you having to go and ask the government, which is actually asking yourself, to give you money to buy this thing. So to me, when I look at this and I see what's happening, I mean, sure, rebates, great. It helps my business. It makes these even more affordable for you, even though some of ours we price so low that they wouldn't even qualify for a rebate anymore because, well, we price them as best we can. And we're not greedy, so I don't really need a rebate, and you don't really need a rebate to buy what we're selling, right? Sure, I mean, I could rebates, $1,000, sweet, let's jack the price up, and it's the same price for me, and I get a rebate money. No, But that's how some of these companies are operating. They see that rebate money, and instead of adjusting their price accordingly per market demand, which is what we should be doing right now, which is what I've done here with this company, they instead ask the government to give you money to pay them on their product. Do you understand why that would put me in a rant kind of a phase? I mean, to me, what I would ask the government for my company, is infrastructure. I would say, don't give rebates, don't provide credit incentives for the hard product, but instead, do what you're supposed to do as a government body, which is provide infrastructure, okay? The government in the last couple of years, because of the pandemic, has gotten really into this handout phase. Just give people money, give people money, give people. That causes inflation. Rebates, credits, these also add to inflation because they're additional buying power, which pushes markets, which then they sell out of the current e-bike products, and then they order more e-bike product according to the market. It's a whole big thing that cascades through that needs to stop before it becomes a real issue, right? Inflation's bad, yes. Should we continue to give money to people to buy things basically out of their own coffers? Absolutely not. Instead, what you should be doing is taking that, I'm sorry, it drives me nuts. The government is not here to hand out money. Yes, the government is to help people in need, but the people in need are going to be middle-class Americans who could just as easily afford to buy one of these. They just couldn't get the nicest one. You know what I mean? So the people that are actually going to be able to take advantage of that rebate aren't going to be the people that should be taking advantage of it. And also, it doesn't help the market as an e-bike industry because we don't price adjust our stuff to the demand, which is how free markets are supposed to work, right? Subsidizing the market through rebates and stuff doesn't work. It's not helping anybody. So, well, let's do this instead. Take all that money, like I said, and put it towards infrastructure. If you go and you look at how the current bike lanes and stuff are set up, it is no wonder when I talk to people about using these for daily transportation, every single one of them tells me, I don't feel safe. What? How much? I mean, let's take a poll even. I mean, if you took a poll and went and asked people, do you feel safe riding a bicycle on a public street? I guarantee the majority of people will say no. If you follow up with why, I guarantee you the majority of people will say there's not enough provided infrastructure to keep me safe from the cars. Cars zip by me all the time. I'm actually thinking about carrying some sticks and just being like this. When you hit the stick, that's on you, buddy. Because it's that bad. So instead of giving people free money to buy stuff, right? Which I can't even, unless it's food or housing, I have no idea why the government's giving you money to buy toys or to transport you around. I mean, half the people riding these, it's a fun thing. It's not transportation. It's a fun toy. It's not a daily transportation thing. So I just don't understand why they would hand you a check for that. I don't understand why they would hand me a check for you buying it. All right? I would rather they take all that money and provide you with beautiful, safe pathways so that you can use this to go from where you need to go, from where you are, to where you need to go and back again safely without feeling like you're going to get run over every few minutes a car goes by you. And I'm sure you probably feel the same way. I mean, the numbers that I've seen indicate Americans do not feel safe on bicycles on public streets. So if that's the case, why are we paying them to buy something that they're not going to feel safe using anyway? That is asinine. That is insanity. Why would we do that? Why? Instead, again, take that money, put it into infrastructure, put it into laws and regulations. Hey, if you're a driver and you don't yield to a bicyclist or an e-bike or motorcyclist and you freaking run them over, there's big penalties and fines. Not, oh well. Because that's really what a lot of it seems to be. Oh well, it's not. That drives me crazy too. Still, there's a long road that we have ahead of us in order to make all this stuff work. And giving people money to buy stuff, one, does not help them. It just doesn't help them use it like they need to. You need to apply infrastructure, build functional spaces that people can use that in. The only people rebates and incentives like that help are the companies selling the product. They don't help you as a citizen. And it doesn't help the e-bike companies either. It helps them in the short term, but not in the long term, because they don't get a good idea of what their market's like. They don't understand the actual demand in place. It's all false. It's all bubble. You know what I'm saying? Popping bubbles. So, yeah, our stance on that is rebates are great, but they are not what you should be using in order to encourage your citizens to go riding. What you should do is give them the infrastructure they begged you for this whole time to go do it. And so once you do that, these things not only will sell, you'll see them on the streets as a regular basis. So that's my rant part of this. And now I actually want to get into the chat part. Yeah, in the chat part, which is going over some of these hub motors and some things to consider if you are looking at buying one of our e-Enduros. This is an 8 kilowatt e-Enduro hub motor. It is a QS hub motor, as you can see by the sticker and the tags here and stuff. And yes, it is a very nice, very powerful 220 Newton meters of torque. It's freaking crazy. This is a bicycle hub motor. It's a 1,000 watt hub motor, so it's pretty large. But what I wanted to show you too is just kind of the comparison between the two, because this is a 19-inch motorcycle rim. There's a 26 by 4-inch bicycle rim. Obviously very different. The spokes are different, right? These ones are thinner. These ones are much thicker. The build is different, right? So lighter duty kind of a unit. This is heavy. This has got some weight to it. I mean, you can work out with this thing. So one of the things I wanted to go over is how different these types of motors are. So you'll see a lot of hub motors on bikes like this, right? You'll see varying brake sizes. These are 160s? Yeah. We got 160 brakes on these. This 1,000 watt hub motor can generate 100 Newton meters or so of torque, which isn't bad. You know, that's pretty substantial for what it is. And on the bike it came on, it was set up with the controller to limit itself to 20 miles per hour on throttle and 25 miles per hour on pedal assist. And so when we contacted the manufacturer, we discussed with them about it. It turns out that's just how that setup is. So we pulled the controller, the display, and the motor, which, by the way, when it comes to working on these things, the motors are somewhat interchangeable. As long as you know the specs as far as the speed magnets or the number of speed magnets and some other things with the motor, then you can usually program the controller to work with it. The thing about the controllers, though, is the controllers and the displays and the motors together, when they're provided that way, work the best. I mean, with this, we could have gotten a different controller shipped to us and had it programmed the way we wanted it to be unlocked, essentially. Because with a 1,000 watt motor, only putting out 20 miles per hour on throttle, which I understand is the federal legal limit, but with no option to unlock it as a private citizen, you know, was just unacceptable to me. I mean, it's being in America, having those options is like, hey, we give it to you the legal way. You know how to take your life into your own hands if you want, and that's really what I see is probably one of the great things about living here is we have those options, we have those choices. So to take those away from somebody, in my mind, is very un-American, right? People want options, people want choices. That's why we do these things. So yeah, so this one, I pulled it because of that, as I mentioned, because the Controller was limited to 20 miles per hour on throttle and 25 on pedal assist. And for a motor that should be able to do about 35 miles per hour, I thought that was pretty tragic. So, and you could feel it. I mean, you could feel it kick in and stop right at that point. So I did confirm with them that is the case. To replace this, also because the rim is really warped, really bad, not fixable warped, it is warped. I think they did a bad weld or something that's warped really bad right here. We're actually getting a replacement motor from a company called TO7, and whole kit, controller, display, motor. It's going to be unlocked and we'll be able to assess it as well, but I expect it with its 110 plus Newton meters of torque to really just propel this thing. And we're getting new rims and stuff in for it too. So this will get taken care of, but something to consider when you're looking at these is, pardon me, how these go together. So there's lots of different theories in like lacing these rims up, and I actually relaced this rim, and we'll get to that in a minute. But in a lot of cases, you'll find they do either outside elbow, inside elbow, in these pairs, outside, inside, or as recommended by Grin, they actually go outside, outside. And so with bicycle rims, wheels, you can do that, okay? You can go outside, outside, because these spokes are thin enough to be able to accommodate that, right? So think about that. There's lots of different ways to lace a rim, but yeah, those ones you can, it's really, you know, looking at the elbows and how you set those up and how it pulls, so on and so forth. This one, however, is much different. So as you can see, the spokes are a lot thicker, way thicker. And even lacing this back up was a completely different experience from lacing up a bicycle rim. There's not a lot anywhere on the internet or anything about it. And so for me, it was a lot of just going through and figuring it out piece by piece. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. One, they're really heavy. Two, when you're putting these spokes in, I mean, there is some aspect of truing, but really those are just to hold it to the motor. when you get down to it, there's not a lot of tension overall in this thing when you're tightening these down. They just tighten in, you're done. I mean, that's it. Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to go over, though, and I'll move a little closer with this for you to see, is when you're lacing these up, right? I got to tighten back down. But you'll see that this one, I don't know if you can tell, but this one right here on the other side would actually come up in between these and catch in this crux. So as I was lacing it, what I had to do is I did this one side, the side facing you, let's say, and then as I went to do this other side, I would bring it up in between here, let it rest in between this crux, undo this outside one, right? Move it, move the other one down and bring it back under, and then put it into place and lace the other side up. Yeah, just a really interesting process on getting this thing going. And I'm not done. I still have to mount it to the back of the Enduro and go through and make sure that all these are tightened in place when I have it hanging and suspended without any kind of lateral forces, any kind of weight pulling or pushing on them. So I've actually had this done for almost a week now, but I wanted to do this video and I wanted to point out some things about this, these hub motors, and the fact that they're not easy to work on. A big part of what we do here is figure out how to work on these. For example, just that alone, just lacing the rim to it, was probably a 8 to 10 hours worth of try and fail before I figured out the actual technique that's required. So, and that's another thing. Anyone can sell you one of these, right? Anybody here, there's people that sell them, but the question is, how well will they support them? How many times have they laced these wheels up and they know, oh, you have to do this and take this piece off and go here. Oh, if you try and do it this way, it's not going to work. Because remember I mentioned there's a lot of different ways for lacing a bicycle tire. There's only one way to lace this tire, to lace this rim. It's elbow out, elbow in. So the outside spoke is got its elbow out, the inside spoke has its elbow in. That's it. If you try to lace this tire any other way, this rim any other way with the elbow adjusting or anything like that, it will not work. I tried. so there. I was going to do a video on it. I have some video that from earlier process that I'm going to put together and splice together on this. But generally, it's a process. It's not a simple thing. It's not an easy thing. And working with these is something that takes time. And if you don't break them, you don't know how to fix them, right? So I read mine to break them. So yeah, so something to consider when you're looking at your hub motor is one, what kind of hub motor do you need? Do you need something like this where you're putting out multi-kilowatts and it's heavy duty when it comes to repairing it? Or can you use something like this where you're getting 1,000 or even 1,500 watts sometimes, and it's more like repairing a bicycle, all right? I would say for most people, the majority of people, this would probably be what they would want, because with an unlocked 1,000 watt motor, like I said, most people will be able to get about 28 to 30 miles an hour, and generally that's going to be where most people want to cut off on a bicycle anyway. So yeah, just keep that in mind. When you look at our e-enduros, keep in mind that these are a bit to work on, right? This is not for the faint-hearted. This is not necessarily for the weekend hobbyist kind of thing. They require a little special attention and a little bit of additional effort when you break them, for sure. So yeah, I enjoy them though. I will say that even though it's taken me a while to get this here, and even though I have to wait another 2 weeks for my front rim to come in, it's all going to be worth it to me. I mean, just having it up and running again, being able to ride the 8 kilowatt around, especially during the summer, is going to be just elating. Elating. Oh, and we have a 12 kilowatt coming in as well. It's Red Thoroughbred. 12 kilowatt, 41.6 amp hour battery. I think we went with a KKE shocks and D&M rear on that one. So yeah, should be a good one. That'll be for sale. We'll have that available as soon as it comes in. Local pickup. We can ship it to you as well. Yeah, so to recap, rebates are great, I guess, if you want to artificially support e-bike companies and stuff. But if you're in the government and you really want to help people move into this movement of things, the movement of movement, then you should really be looking at infrastructure. I mean, I see hundreds of millions of dollars spent on freeway expansion, and there's barely even a safe bike lane in this town. So yeah, I would say, or city, I'm gonna put it. I would say focus on that first. That's really where your efforts to your constituents can be best applied, right? Because when it comes to the market will balance out. I've figured out ways to get these really low pricing. It's just a matter of getting the initial investment capital together to put it out there so we can get that return. So, but yeah, it's all very feasible. It's all very doable. It's just, I think rebates just artificially inflate markets and stuff. It's not always the best method. Sometimes focusing in on the infrastructure is. So, and then hub motors, right? Know what you're getting, or at least have an idea of what you need to understand what you should get, right? And keep in mind that it's not as easy as just, oh, my hub motor broke, let me get a new one. Oh, my controller doesn't work the way I want, let me put a different one in there. There are some things you have to do with compatibility as far as making sure that all works together. So keep those things in mind. Let me know if you have any questions, and always happy to help.
I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there.